Commander Jake Morrison pressed his face against the cold metal window of Harmony Station. Outside in the darkness of space, he could see ships from 12 different worlds floating like jewels against the stars. Some looked like giant crystals that caught and reflected light in rainbow colors. Others were dark and smooth like polished stone. A few had shapes that hurt his eyes to look at directly. This was supposed to be the most important place in the galaxy. Harmony Station was built in neutral space, far from any world that belonged to humans or aliens. It was a place where different species could meet and talk without anyone feeling threatened. The station had been under construction for 5 years, and Jake had been here for the last 2. Amy Carter sat at her communication desk, wearing headphones that looked too big for her small head. She was only 25 years old, but she spoke more alien languages than anyone else in the human fleet. Right now she was talking to the Zilithians, the crystal people who spoke with flashes of colored light instead of sounds. The conversation looked like a rainbow disco in the communication room. The Zilithians want to know if we can lower the station temperature by 2 degrees, Amy said without looking up from her work. Their representative is getting uncomfortable. Jake nodded. Tell them we will take care of it. He made a note on his tablet. Everything on Harmony Station had to be perfect. One small mistake could ruin years of careful diplomacy. In another part of the station, Captain Lisa Brooks walked through the security section with her hands behind her back. She commanded the small human fleet that protected Harmony Station. 3 frigates and 8 patrol ships. It was not much, but the human government wanted to show they came in peace. Too many weapons might scare the aliens away from talks. Lisa stopped at a window that showed the docking area. A new ship had arrived that morning. It belonged to the Thrakari Empire, and it looked like a giant metal flower with petals that moved slowly in the artificial gravity. The Thrakari were twice as tall as humans and had 4 arms. They spoke in sounds so deep that humans needed special machines to hear them properly. Captain Brooks, a voice called behind her. She turned to see Ambassador Paul Green walking toward her. Paul was in his 50s with gray hair and kind eyes. He had spent his whole career trying to make peace between different species. How are the talks going, Ambassador? Lisa asked. Paul smiled, but she could see he was tired. Slowly. Everyone wants something different. The Zilithians want exclusive mining rights in the Vega system. The Thrakari think humans expand too fast and want us to slow down. The Void Singers barely talk at all, and when they do, half of us get headaches from their electromagnetic speech. Lisa laughed. At least they are talking instead of shooting. True, Paul said. But I worry about the species that have not shown up yet. The Corvin hegemony said they would send representatives, but they are 3 weeks late. Jake Morrison joined them at the window. He had heard Paul mention the Corvins. Maybe they changed their minds about the peace talks. Maybe, Paul said, but he did not sound convinced. The Corvins control a lot of space. If they do not sign the Galactic Accords, it will be much harder to keep the peace. Amy Carter's voice came over the station speakers. Commander Morrison, please report to the communication center immediately. Jake, Lisa, and Paul looked at each other with concern. Amy never used the emergency communication system unless something was very wrong. They ran through the corridors of Harmony Station. Other humans and aliens stopped what they were doing to watch them pass. When they reached the communication center, Amy was standing in front of her screens with her face white as paper. What is it? Jake asked. Amy pointed at the long-range sensors. Ships are coming out of hyperspace. A lot of ships. On the main screen, they watched as massive vessels appeared in flashes of blue light. 1 ship, then 5, then 20. The ships kept coming until there were over 100 of them arranged in perfect formation. Each ship was the size of a small city, dark gray metal covered with weapons that looked like thorns on a giant rose. Corvin Hegemony Fleet, Lisa whispered. But this is not a diplomatic mission. This is an invasion force. The largest ship, a dreadnought that could crack moons in half, moved toward Harmony Station. Other alien vessels in the area immediately began leaving. The crystal ships of the Zilithians disappeared into hyperspace within minutes. The Thrakari flower ship folded its petals and jumped away. Even the mysterious Void Singers, who never showed fear, packed up and left without saying goodbye. "They are hailing us," Amy said with a shaking voice. "Put them on screen," Paul ordered. The communication screen filled with the image of a Corvin officer. Corvins looked like humans might look if they were made of metal and stone. Their skin was gray and hard. Their eyes were black holes in their faces, and when they spoke, their voices sounded like rocks grinding together. "I am War Commander Thek of the Corvin Hegemony," the alien said. "This station is now under our control. All human personnel will surrender immediately, or we will destroy this station and everyone on it." Paul stepped forward. "War Commander, I am Ambassador Paul Green of Earth. This is neutral space, and Harmony Station is protected under galactic law. You have no right to make demands here." The Corvin's laugh sounded like breaking glass. "Your laws mean nothing to us, human. You have 72 hours to withdraw from all systems beyond your home world. Remove your colonies, your mining operations, your patrol fleets. Return to your single star system and stay there, or we will kill every diplomat on this station." The screen went black. Jake looked around the communication center. Through the windows, they could see Corvin ships surrounding Harmony Station like predators circling wounded prey. Their weapons were pointed at the station, ready to fire at the first sign of resistance. "Can we call for help?" Jake asked. Amy shook her head. "They are jamming all long-range communications. Nothing gets in or out." Lisa checked her weapon belt, but she knew it was useless. Even if every human on the station fought back, they had only small personal weapons. The Corvins had enough firepower to destroy entire worlds. Paul sat down heavily in a chair. 20 years of careful diplomacy had just collapsed in 20 minutes. The Corvins had not come to talk. They had come to end humanity's expansion into space once and for all. Outside the windows, more Corvin ships arrived. The fleet that surrounded Harmony Station now numbered in the hundreds. Each ship was a mountain of metal and weapons, silent and deadly in the darkness of space. The humans were trapped, and Earth had no idea what was happening. In 72 hours, the Corvin ultimatum would expire. Humanity would have to choose between saving their diplomats and giving up their future among the stars. None of them knew that their capture would trigger the greatest military response in human history. The sleeping giant of Earth was about to wake up, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Karen White was drinking her morning coffee when the emergency alert came through. The red lights in her office at Fleet Command began flashing, and sirens wailed throughout the building. She had been in the military for 30 years, but her heart still jumped when she heard that sound. Her aide, Lieutenant Commander Steve Parker, burst through her door without knocking. His uniform was wrinkled like he had been sleeping at his desk again. "Admiral, we have a priority message from Harmony Station. It came through just before their communications went dark." Karen set down her coffee cup and followed Steve to the main command center. The room was filled with officers running between computer screens and talking quickly into headsets. On the giant wall display, she could see a map of known space with red warning symbols flashing around the Harmony Station area. "Play the message," Karen ordered. Amy Carter's frightened face appeared on the screen. The young communication officer looked like she was trying not to cry. "Fleet Command, this is Harmony Station. We are under attack by Corvin forces. They have taken control of the station and are holding all diplomatic personnel hostage. The Corvins demand that humanity withdraw from all space beyond the Sol system within 72 hours, or they will execute everyone here. Communications are being jammed. This may be our last transmission. Please tell our families we love them." The message ended and the command center became very quiet. Karen stared at the screen where Amy's face had been. That young woman was trapped millions of miles from home, facing death because she had volunteered to serve her species. "Get me the Joint Chiefs," Karen said. "Emergency meeting in 10 minutes." The Situation Room filled quickly with the most important military leaders on Earth. General Rick Davis of the Space Marines was a big man with scars on his hands from old battles. Colonel Beth Turner of the Strategic Defense Corps was small and quiet, but everyone knew she was the smartest person in the room. Secretary of Defense Tony Martinez looked tired, like he had been woken up in the middle of the night. "Options," Karen said without sitting down. General Davis spoke first. "We hit them hard and fast. Every ship we have, full assault on Harmony Station. We save our people and teach the Corvins not to mess with humans. Colonel Turner shook her head. That is suicide, Rick. We have maybe 200 ships in the active fleet. Intelligence reports say the Corvins have over 1,000 vessels at Harmony Station alone. They will destroy us and kill the hostages. Secretary Martinez leaned forward. Maybe we should consider their demands. We could pull back from some of the outer colonies, negotiate a peace treaty, save lives on both sides. Karen looked at each of them. She understood their positions. Rick wanted to fight because that was what Marines did. Beth wanted to be smart because rushing into battle got people killed. Tony wanted to avoid war because wars were expensive and politicians had to explain them to voters. But Karen had spent her whole career building the human fleet. She knew every captain who served under Earth's flag. She had attended the funerals of crews who died exploring new worlds. She had shaken hands with colonists who left Earth to build new homes among the stars. Steve, she said to her aide, bring up the classified files. Operation Tsunami. The room became even quieter. Operation Tsunami was so secret that only 5 people on Earth were supposed to know about it. Steve's fingers moved quickly over his tablet, and new information appeared on the wall screens. For the past 15 years, Karen said, we have been preparing for exactly this situation. The public fleet that everyone knows about is just the tip of the iceberg. The real human fleet has been building in secret shipyards beyond Pluto. The screens showed images that made everyone in the room gasp. Massive battleships hidden inside hollowed-out asteroids. Carriers disguised as mining platforms. Destroyers that looked like cargo ships until their weapons deployed. Hundreds of vessels that had been built in complete secrecy. The Corvins think they know how strong we are, Karen continued. They have seen our exploration ships and patrol vessels. They believe we are a young species with limited military power. They are wrong. General Davis grinned. How wrong are they? Karen smiled for the first time since the crisis began. We have been watching and learning from every alien species we have encountered. Our weapons are designed specifically to counter their defenses. Our ships are faster and more maneuverable than anything in the galaxy, and we have been training for this fight since the day we met our first hostile alien. Colonel Turner studied the numbers on her tablet. The logistics alone, how do we supply a fleet this size? Automated supply ships, Steve answered. Mobile repair platforms. Everything we need to fight a war far from home. The outer system has been turned into one giant military base and nobody knew about it. Secretary Martinez looked overwhelmed. The cost must be enormous. About the same as we spend on coffee each year, Karen said. When you spread it over 15 years and hide it in 100 different budget items, it becomes invisible. The beauty of a democracy is that nobody reads the fine print. General Davis was studying tactical displays. What about the experimental weapons programs? The ones Congress said were too dangerous. Karen's smile became wider. Not too dangerous. Too powerful for peacetime. But we are not in peacetime anymore. The screens showed weapons that looked like science fiction. Kinetic bombardment platforms that could fire tungsten rods at nearly the speed of light. Quantum torpedoes that ignored enemy shields completely. Swarm fighters controlled by artificial intelligence that could overwhelm any defense system. The Corvins made one critical mistake, Karen said. They assumed we would negotiate. They thought we would trade our freedom for the lives of our diplomats. They do not understand humans very well. She walked to the wall display that showed the Harmony Station system. Red dots marked Corvin ship positions. They were arranged in perfect formation around the station, designed to look impressive and threatening. We do not negotiate with terrorists, Karen said. We do not abandon our people, and we do not bow to threats. The Corvins want to see what happens when they corner humanity. They are about to find out. The vote was quick and unanimous. Operation Tsunami was approved for immediate activation. Within hours, secret communication channels would carry coded messages to hidden bases throughout the solar system. Ships that had been sleeping in darkness would wake up and prepare for war. Captain Danny Lewis received his activation codes while his ship floated disguised as space debris near Jupiter. Commander Helen Ross got her orders at a supply depot hidden inside Saturn's rings. Captain Gary Sullivan powered up his stealth reconnaissance ship from its hiding place in the asteroid belt. All across human space, the real fleet began to move. The Corvins had given humanity 72 hours to surrender. Instead, they had awakened something that had been waiting 15 years for this exact moment. Admiral Karen White stood alone in her office after the meeting ended. Through her window, she could see the lights of Earth's cities twinkling in the darkness. Billions of humans lived down there, most of them unaware that their species was about to go to war. She picked up her coffee cup and took a sip. It was cold now, but she did not care. In 72 hours, the galaxy would learn what it meant to threaten humanity. The Corvins thought they were dealing with primitives who would collapse at the first sign of real force. They were about to discover their mistake. Captain Danny Lewis was drinking synthetic coffee in his tiny cabin when the activation signal came through. The USS Liberty had been floating dead in space for 3 months, pretending to be a broken cargo ship near Jupiter's moons. Danny and his crew of 200 had been waiting patiently in the cold darkness, keeping their ship powered down to avoid detection. Now red lights flashed throughout the Liberty, and Danny heard his crew running to battle stations. He grabbed his uniform jacket and headed for the bridge. Through the ship's windows, he could see something that made his heart race with excitement. Ships were appearing everywhere. What had looked like empty space around Jupiter was suddenly filled with human vessels. Destroyers uncloaked from behind asteroids. Battleships emerged from camouflaged bases built into Jupiter's moons. Massive carriers opened hidden launch bays and began releasing fighter squadrons. "Captain," his communications officer called out, "we are receiving fleet coordination signals from Admiral White herself." Danny took his command chair and watched the tactical display fill with green dots. Each dot was a human warship that had been hiding in the outer solar system for years. The public knew about maybe 50 active military vessels in the human fleet. The display showed over 2,000 ships coming online at the same time. Near Saturn, Commander Helen Ross stood on the bridge of the supply vessel New Horizon. Her ship looked like a simple cargo hauler, but it was actually a mobile command center designed to coordinate massive fleet operations. Around her ship, the rings of Saturn were breaking apart as hidden shipyards revealed themselves. "All supply lines are active," her logistics officer reported. "We have enough ammunition to fight continuously for 6 months. Medical ships are standing by to handle casualties. Mobile repair platforms are ready to fix battle damage in real time." Helen smiled as she watched cargo ships emerge from concealment throughout the Saturn system. Each ship carried weapons and supplies that had been stockpiled for over a decade: food, water, oxygen, fuel, spare parts, and enough explosive ordnance to level several planets. But the real surprise was not the number of ships or the amount of supplies. It was the technology that humanity had developed in secret, while the galaxy thought they were peaceful explorers. Captain Gary Sullivan piloted his reconnaissance ship Shadow through the asteroid belt, gathering intelligence on Corvin fleet positions. His ship was completely invisible to alien sensors, using stealth technology that bent light and radio waves around the hull. The Corvins had no idea he was watching them from just a few thousand kilometers away. "Their formation is designed for intimidation, not defense," Gary reported to Fleet Command. "Over 400 ships arranged in perfect geometric patterns around Harmony Station. They expect us to either surrender or send a small rescue force that they can easily destroy." Gary's sensors analyzed the Corvin vessels in detail. Their ships were impressive, built like flying fortresses with thick armor and powerful energy weapons. But they moved slowly and fought in rigid formations that followed ancient military traditions. The Corvins had been the dominant military power in their region for so long that they had forgotten how to adapt to new threats. Meanwhile, human ships moved through space like schools of fish, flowing around obstacles and changing direction, without breaking formation. Human captains had studied every battle fought by every alien species. They knew how Corvins thought, how they fought, and most importantly, how they could be defeated. The experimental weapons platforms were the biggest secret of all. Captain Linda Hayes commanded a kinetic bombardment ship that looked like a simple research vessel. Hidden inside her hull were magnetic accelerators that could fire tungsten rods at 12% the speed of light. Each rod weighed only a few kilograms, but at that velocity it carried enough energy to punch through any known armor. Lieutenant Commander Scott Adams flew test flights of the new AI-controlled fighter drones. Each drone was no bigger than a person, but they moved faster than any manned fighter and could make turns that would crush a human pilot. A single carrier could launch 10,000 drones that fought as one coordinated swarm, overwhelming enemy defenses through pure numbers. The quantum torpedo program was still experimental, but early tests showed promising results. The torpedoes existed in several dimensions at once, allowing them to pass through conventional shields as if they were not there. Enemy armor became useless when the weapon materialized inside their hull and exploded. Admiral White received reports from across the solar system as the hidden fleet assembled. Ship captains who had spent years in hiding were finally able to reveal themselves. Crews who had trained in secret were ready to put their skills to the test. Engineers who had worked on classified projects could finally see their weapons used in real combat. "Fleet status report," she ordered. "All ships are active and responding," her aide reported. "We have 2,300 vessels ready for combat operations. Supply lines are established. Intelligence gathering is complete. We are ready to jump to hyperspace on your command." Karen looked at the tactical display showing the route to Harmony Station. It would take 18 hours to reach the target system, 18 hours for the largest military force in human history to travel across space and deliver Earth's answer to the Corvin ultimatum. "Send a message to all ship commanders," she ordered. "Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten human lives. We do not negotiate with bullies. We do not abandon our people. We do not back down from a fight. The Corvins wanted to see our true strength. They are about to get their wish." Throughout the solar system, human warships began moving toward hyperspace jump points. Captains who had waited years for this moment gave orders to their crews. Engineers powered up weapon systems that had never been tested in real combat. Marines checked their equipment and prepared for boarding actions. The Corvins had made a simple calculation. They believed humans were weak because they had only seen humanity's peaceful side. They thought a show of overwhelming force would make Earth surrender without a fight. They had never encountered a species that prepared for war while hoping for peace. They did not understand that humans were capable of building a massive military force while keeping it completely secret from their own people. Most importantly, they had never fought an enemy that became more dangerous when cornered. Captain Danny Lewis gave the order for his ship to jump to hyperspace. As the Liberty disappeared in a flash of blue light, he knew that history was being made. Humanity was about to announce its arrival as a major galactic power, and the announcement would be written in plasma fire and kinetic energy. The storm was gathering, and it was heading straight for Harmony Station. The first warning came at exactly 6 in the morning, Galactic Standard Time. Corvin sensor operators on the outer edge of their fleet detected strange readings in hyperspace. Something big was coming toward them, but their instruments could not tell them what it was. War Commander Thek stood on the bridge of his flagship, a massive dreadnought called the Iron Fist. He had been expecting a small human rescue force, maybe 20 ships at most. The humans would make a brave but hopeless attempt to save their diplomats, and he would destroy them easily. It would be a good demonstration of Corvin power for the rest of the galaxy to see. "Report," he ordered his sensor officer. "Multiple hyperspace signatures approaching, War Commander. At least 50 contacts, possibly more. The readings are unclear." Thek nodded. 50 ships was more than he had expected, but still not enough to threaten his fleet of 400 vessels. The humans were braver than he thought, but bravery without strength was just another word for stupidity. The first human ships began dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Then more appeared, and more. Thek watched his tactical display with growing concern as green dots representing enemy vessels continued to multiply. "How many ships?" he demanded. His sensor officer's voice was shaking. "I count over 500. Contacts, War Commander. No, wait. More are still arriving. 700. 1,000. Sir, I think our sensors are malfunctioning." Thek pushed the officer aside and looked at the display himself. What he saw made his blood run cold. The edge of the system was filled with human warships, more than he had ever seen in one place. But these were not the small exploration vessels and patrol craft that the Corvins knew about. These were full-sized battleships and carriers, arranged in attack formations that spoke of serious military planning. All ships to battle stations, Thek ordered. Prepare for combat. Captain Roy Martinez commanded the destroyer USS Hammer, part of the first wave of human ships to enter the system. He had studied Corvin tactics for years, waiting for this moment. The aliens always fought in rigid formations like soldiers marching in straight lines. It made them predictable. All ships begin attack pattern Delta, Roy ordered over the fleet communication channel. Hit them fast, hit them hard, and keep moving. The human fleet did not charge straight at the enemy like the Corvins expected. Instead, they split into dozens of smaller groups that moved in flowing, unpredictable patterns. Some ships went high, others went low. Some accelerated to maximum speed, while others hung back and provided covering fire. The first Corvin dreadnought died within 5 minutes of the battle starting. Human kinetic weapons fired tungsten rods that moved too fast for the alien point defenses to track. The rods punched through the ship's thick armor like bullets through paper, and secondary explosions tore the massive vessel apart from the inside. Commander Sarah Johnson launched fighter squadrons from her carrier USS Defiant. But these were not ordinary fighters. Mixed in with the manned craft were thousands of AI-controlled drones, each one no bigger than a motorcycle but armed with plasma cannons and guided missiles. The Corvin fleet had never seen anything like it. Their defensive systems were designed to stop large missiles and energy beams, not swarms of tiny fighters that moved like angry insects. The drones swarmed over Corvin ships, finding weak points in their armor and exploiting them ruthlessly. Their point defenses are overloaded, Sarah reported to Fleet Command. The drones are getting through. Manned fighters are engaging primary targets. War Commander Thek watched in horror as his fleet began falling apart. Human ships moved like nothing he had ever encountered, flowing around his formations like water around rocks. Every time his gunners tried to target an enemy vessel, it would change direction or disappear behind cover. But the real shock came when the human kinetic platforms opened fire. Captain Linda Hayes had positioned her bombardment ship at maximum range, well outside the reach of Corvin weapons. Her magnetic accelerators fired tungsten rods that accelerated to incredible speeds before striking their targets. The rods were invisible to Corvin sensors until the moment of impact. Ships that had survived battles across multiple star systems were cut in half by weapons that used no exotic technology, just simple physics applied with devastating precision. Mass times velocity equals destruction, and the humans had learned to use that equation better than anyone else in the galaxy. Captain Nathan Clark commanded the battleship USS Thunderbolt, leading a squadron of heavy cruisers against the Corvin center formation. His ships carried quantum torpedoes, weapons that existed in several dimensions at once. Corvin shields, designed to stop energy weapons and conventional missiles, were useless against torpedoes that could phase through solid matter. Direct hit on enemy flagship, Nathan reported as his torpedoes found their target. Their shields did not even slow us down. The Iron Fist, War Commander Thek's mighty dreadnought, shuddered as quantum explosions tore through its hull. Thek felt his ship dying around him and finally understood the magnitude of his mistake. The humans had not come to negotiate or make a desperate rescue attempt. They had come to destroy his entire fleet. All ships retreat, he ordered. Jump to hyperspace immediately. But the humans had planned for this too. Captain Gary Sullivan and his stealth ships had been waiting at every hyperspace exit point for hours. As Corvin vessels tried to flee, they found human warships blocking their escape routes. The trap was complete. Some Corvin ships tried to fight their way out. Others attempted to surrender. A few simply shut down their engines and waited for death. But none of them escaped. The human fleet systematically hunted down every alien vessel in the system. Captain Danny Lewis watched from the bridge of the USS Liberty as the last Corvin ship exploded in a ball of fire. The battle had lasted less than 4 hours. Not a single human ship had been destroyed, and casualties were minimal. The Corvin hegemony's most powerful fleet had been wiped out completely. All ships, secure from battle stations, Admiral White's, Voice came over the communication channel. Rescue teams to Harmony Station immediately. Medical ships stand by to receive casualties. Within minutes, human Marines were aboard Harmony Station, freeing the hostages who had been trapped there for 3 days. Commander Jake Morrison, Captain Lisa Brooks, and Ambassador Paul Green were brought aboard the Liberty, shaken but unharmed. How? Paul asked, as he looked out at the hundreds of human warships surrounding the station. Where did all these ships come from? Captain Danny smiled. We have been preparing for this day for 15 years, Ambassador. The galaxy thought humans were peaceful explorers. They were only half right. We explore in peace, but we are always ready for war. The battle was over, but its effects would be felt across the galaxy for generations to come. The Corvan hegemony, which had dominated 3 sectors of space for over 1,000 years, had been destroyed in a single afternoon by a species most aliens considered primitive newcomers. As news of the victory spread through human space, Admiral White prepared her next message to the galaxy. Humanity had announced its arrival as a major power, and the announcement had been written in fire and steel across the darkness of space. News of the battle traveled faster than light across the galaxy. Within hours, every major civilization knew that the Corvan hegemony had been completely destroyed by human forces. The mighty empire that had controlled 3 sectors of space for over 1,000 years no longer existed. Ambassador Paul Green sat in his temporary office aboard the USS Liberty, staring at a communication screen that had not stopped flashing for 6 hours. Every alien government in known space wanted to talk to him immediately. The Zilithian Crystal Council, who had fled when the Corvans arrived, now sent messages begging for immediate trade agreements. The Thrakari Empire offered military alliance and promised to share their advanced technology. Even the mysterious Void Singers, who rarely spoke to anyone, had broken their silence to request formal diplomatic contact. Paul had spent 20 years trying to get different species to talk to each other. Now they all wanted to talk to humanity at the same time. Ambassador, his aide called from the doorway. Admiral White needs to see you in the briefing room. Paul walked through the corridors of the Liberty, passing human crew members who looked tired but happy. They had just won the biggest military victory in human history, and everyone knew it. But Paul also saw something else in their eyes. Pride, yes, but also responsibility. They understood that everything had changed. In the briefing room, Admiral White stood before a large display showing the current positions of human and alien fleets. Red markers showed where Corvan ships had been destroyed. Green markers showed human vessels now patrolling former Corvan territory. Blue markers indicated alien governments that wanted to establish new relationships with humanity. The Galactic Assembly has called an emergency session, Admiral White told him. They want humanity to appear before the full council on Nexus Prime. Every major civilization will be there. Paul nodded. Nexus Prime was the political center of known space, an artificial world built specifically for diplomatic meetings. No single species controlled it, and all major decisions affecting the galaxy were made there. For humanity to be invited meant they were finally being recognized as equals. What do they want to discuss? Paul asked. Everything, Admiral White replied. Trade routes, territorial boundaries, military cooperation, technology sharing. But mostly they want to understand how we became so powerful without anyone noticing. Captain Danny Lewis joined them from the bridge. Sir, we are receiving reports from across human space. Every colony world, every mining station, every research outpost is being contacted by alien governments. They all want to establish diplomatic relations immediately. Admiral White smiled. Fear is a powerful motivator. Yesterday we were the new species that everyone ignored. Today we are the military power that destroyed the Corvans in 4 hours. They want to be our friends before we decide to be their enemies. 3 days later, Admiral White stood before the Galactic Assembly on Nexus Prime. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from over 40 different civilizations. She wore her dress uniform with quiet pride, flanked by the rescued hostages from Harmony Station and officers from the human fleet. The assembly hall was designed to accommodate every type of alien physiology. Some delegates floated in tanks of liquid methane. Others hung from the ceiling in gravity-free zones. A few existed as pure energy and appeared only as glowing lights. But all of them were focused on the human delegation with a mixture of respect and fear. "Members of the Galactic Assembly," Admiral White began, her voice carried by translators to every species present. "Humanity comes before you today not as conquerors, but as protectors of peace. We seek friendship with all civilizations that come to us in good faith." The lead delegate from the Zilithian Crystal Council rose to speak. His crystalline body caught the light and threw rainbows across the chamber. "Admiral White, your military demonstration was most impressive. But the galaxy must ask, what are humanity's intentions? Will you use your power to dominate others, as the Corvins did?" Admiral White looked directly at the crystal being. "The Corvin hegemony fell because they threatened innocent lives and demanded the surrender of human freedom. We did not seek this conflict, but when forced to choose between the safety of our people and the demands of bullies, we will always choose to protect our own." A delegate from the Thrakari Empire spoke next, his deep voice requiring special translators. "Your tactics were unlike anything we have seen. Your ships moved as if controlled by a single mind. Your weapons ignored our understanding of physics. How long have you been preparing for war?" "We have been preparing for peace," Admiral White replied. "But we learned long ago that peace must be defended. For 15 years we built the tools necessary to protect human lives and human worlds. We hoped never to use them. The Corvins made that hope impossible." The questioning continued for hours. Every delegate wanted to know about human technology, human tactics, human intentions. Admiral White answered honestly but revealed nothing that would compromise human security. She made it clear that humanity was willing to share the benefits of peace, but the tools of war would remain under human control. Finally, the vote was called. The motion to admit humanity to the Galactic Council as a permanent member passed, unanimously. Not a single delegate voted against it. The Terran Federation was granted full voting rights and the authority to deploy peacekeeping forces anywhere in known space. Captain Lisa Brooks returned to Harmony Station 2 weeks later. The station had been completely rebuilt, with new defensive systems and a permanent human fleet presence. She watched construction crews working alongside alien technicians to expand the facility. What had once been a small diplomatic outpost was becoming the largest multicultural center in the galaxy. "Captain," her communications officer reported, "we have 3 more requests for diplomatic meetings today. The Andromedans want to discuss a joint exploration mission. The Centauran Republic is offering to share their medical technology, and the Spiral Arm Collective wants to establish a permanent embassy here." Lisa nodded. The phrase human guarantee had already become galactic shorthand for an unbreakable promise. When humans said they would protect something, the galaxy now knew they meant it. When humans offered friendship, other species rushed to accept it. But in the depths of space, beyond the reach of alien sensors, new human ships continued to emerge from hidden shipyards. The victory over the Corvins had revealed only a fraction of humanity's true military strength. Admiral White had shown the galaxy enough power to earn respect, but kept most of their capabilities secret. After all, the best defense was the one your enemies never saw coming, and humanity had learned that in a dangerous galaxy, it was better to be feared by your enemies than loved by your friends. The age of human expansion had begun, built on a foundation that every species in the galaxy now understood. Humanity protected its own no matter the cost. And now the galaxy was learning that being friends with humans was the safest place to be.